You suggest that we are doing well and our resources are comparable to those schools that have similar endowments to us, and from the research that I've done, we're not.
I'm a young alum, but while at Rice, I was very involved with my college, my major, and friends across campus.
I've dealt with depression and anxiety for a long time, but it came to a head my sophomore year at Rice.
After a public party, he was sober. I was in the state of mind Rice students want to be after public parties. He hit me and threw me across the room. When I reacted as expected, crying, upset, confused, he called RUPD, claiming I was suicidal to get me to leave. I vehemently denied this. I was upset, but have no history of serious depression or mental health issues.
Anonymous 6.
Work with this?
Maybe.
I was crying. I was depressed and in treatment, but it had been a bad day.
I was taken to Ben Taub and held against my will for over 24 hours. RUPD left me there with no contact, no information on when I would be released, and no explanation. When they dropped me off, they told me I would have a brief 20-minute just-in-case interview, after which they would immediately bring me back to campus. That was a lie. The experience I had while forced to stay at the hospital was far more traumatic for me than being thrown around by a guy. I was in a ward full of seriously mentally ill individuals with leering men, an unhelpful staff, nothing to do but sit in my room wondering how the hell I was going to get out. After 12 hours of no information, I finally had an appointment with one of the doctors who, to be blunt, wondered what the hell I was doing there and signed my release.
I was admitted to the hospital the day before my birthday. The day before I got out, I got a phone call. It was my counselor from the RCC telling me that I was not going to be allowed to return to my room at my college when I got out.
Following this incident, Rice requested that I spend 24 hours off campus with a parent. I'm not from Houston and can't imagine how they thought this would be financially feasible on such short notice.
The dean's office responded with outrageous demands. I had to move off campus within the week. My mother had to quit her job and fly hundreds of miles to come and live with me for the rest of the semester. I had to sign away my confidentiality rights with my own therapist, allowing the dean's office to ask anything they wanted about my therapy sessions. I had to be evaluated multiple times by the counseling center on top of my own outside therapy. I had to meet with Kate Noonan to ensure that I was still up to the dean's standards. I had to petition to be able to continue on into my spring semester, citing references and recommendations from faculty members who would stand by me. And they did it.
The representative from the Office of Student Retention, Kate Noonan, was the person in the room who most wanted me to leave. In the end, I was told by her that I was a distraction.
As a typical Rice student, I move on best by throwing myself into work and social activities and told the involved officers as much. The director of the Office of Retention responded that I would not be able to return the following semester if I refused.
Sometime during those weeks, I received a letter from Dean Hutchinson detailing the conditions of my staying at Rice. It contained the quote that will stick with me. I was told that I was not to go back to being a disruption to the Rice community. The next semester, I left Rice for good.
I wasn't kicked off campus or forced to withdraw, but I very well could have been had it not been for the strong relationships I had forged with the adult leadership at my college. My college masters in particular were sympathetic and provided wonderful support.
The masters were the only good administrators I dealt with.
Once I let a detailed slip to a teacher about the depression I'd been struggling with. The next day, a new onslaught from the dean's office began, another round of evaluations and questioning to determine my mental state.
I have beloved friends at Rice, and I participate in clubs and activities here, but I will never have faith in this school again.
Rice appeared built to help any student. Yet, in an act of supreme hypocrisy, every resource was stripped away from me in my moment of need.
Given other stories I have heard, I fear I may have treated as much more of an unwarranted burden on campus had I reported the incident of physical violence, and I am glad I did not do so.
I was informed of all the things I couldn't do now at Rice. I was never informed of the things I should have been able to.
We want to reaffirm that this is a conversation with the administration, and it is for this reason that we have Dean Hutch and many of the administration here
Thank you, Drew, and Philomena, Elizabeth, Dennis, thank you for organizing this. Thank all of you for turning out today. Listening to those stories is intensely personal for every one of us who are here, myself, my staff included. With maybe one exception, I think a case that a lot who preceded me as the dean, I recognized all of the stories. I know the students involved. I remember in detail the deep and long discussions we had amongst our group, trying as best we could to figure out how to deal with moments of crisis for students. When I will speak for myself, but also for my staff, the reason why we do what we do is because we love the students of Rice. But we are also all self-aware enough to know that we can always do better. But what I do want to do is say, we are listening, we hear what you had to say, and we are anxious to enter into the conversation that I think you have invited us here to. Kind of like to note as well that in many regards, we actually tried to invite the student body into this conversation back in September. Most of you will remember that we organized the Wellbeing Project to extend over the course of the year. We had an entire week of programming to launch that program back in September, largely so that students would come to understand the challenges associated with health issues, particularly mental health issues on campus. Early in this semester, when the issues arose around the letter from a student at Amherst, a former student at Amherst, we actually began a process of self-evaluation that resulted in the hiring of an external consultant to actually review all of our processes and review some specific cases as well. And I think that's actually one of the things that you're calling for in the resolution that you presented a little earlier today, that we do such an external review. That's actually already in process. It's way too early for us to even have any results, let alone for us to share those with you. But you know, we can share that at the time. I think what you'll see is that we are dedicated to a constant improvement in the things that we provide, and that this is one of the ways in which we can identify the additional resources, the additional programming, maybe changes in process as required to do an even better job than I think that we are already doing now. I say that not to say that we have solved all the problems, but rather to say that we are completely in sympathy with all of you in the sense that we need even more resources, that we need even more approaches, we need even more possibilities for our students to seek out the assistance that we need. I can actually share with you the numbers if you would like to know. And the answer is that in each of the previous 2 years, roughly 4 students were removed involuntarily from the university for health reasons. That's the number. So for those of you who couldn't hear, and maybe you couldn't because the helicopter flew over the top, she's asking for an apology. And I'm asking sort of, in particular, what would you like me to apologize for? And I wanted to know sort of generally, do you think that I should apologize for our processes? And my answer actually is what I ever said for a while ago. I am sufficiently proud of our processes and that we are so careful and that my staff is so good that in fact, no, I'm not going to apologize to them. Because in fact, we are extremely careful about the steps that we take. I was wondering whether you're referring to sort of the specific case that brought us all here together today. And I won't comment on that case at all. But I will tell you that every single case in which we make these decisions are long, carefully considered, carefully researched processes. So no, for me to apologize, what I would be saying is that we would do it differently. That's very different than saying, does it pain me that we went through this? And the answer is, yeah. It pained me then, it pains me now. I feel deeply for the students who have gone through this, including those who are here today. It is a very painful process, and I don't question that in the least. I can share the pain without apologizing for it, if that helps at all. Let me share just one other thing for me, sort of personally. One of the really difficult challenges of my job is that on occasion, in fact, the future of individual students is placed in my hands. And that is an incredible burden. It's an incredibly difficult burden. It's one that, quite frankly, I wish I didn't have. It's not by any means the reason I specifically wanted this job. But it's there, because somebody in the university has to be in a position to make the really difficult decisions that have to do with the future of individual students.